Hey guys, it's been a month since my last upload, and while I work on my next video, I thought it would be a good idea to feed y'all some slop. That's right, ladies and gents, we have hit rock bottom in this channel. So, the other day, YouTube recommended me this video that I'm not entirely sure if it's purely rage bait or not. Regardless of its true nature, most takes in this video are absolute dog shit. Now watch me do the laziest possible content known to man. Reaction content. To be honest, the intro of this video is not that bad. He actually makes some good points. It's the second part of the video where I feel like this dude is just rage baiting.
Let's run through some popular indie games real quick. Fortune's Run. It's like Deus Ex mixed with Doom. Cool idea. The developer went to prison and will not be finishing the game anytime soon. $20. Also, big problem. The game isn't fun. Very positive.
I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I had no idea that this game existed until watching this video. Not that it matters much, since he doesn't really elaborate on why it's a bad video game. You don't finding something fun doesn't really translate to the video game being bad. The only good points he makes is that the game won't be finished and the price. And just in case you think it matters that the developer went to prison, that doesn't really change the quality of the present product. Wait, hold on.
Project Silverfish. It's like Stalker, but made by furries and fucking hideous. Also, has less content. It costs more than Stalker does. Very positive reviews.
This is also an indie game I had no idea existed. Now for this one, he actually makes two really good points. The price and the content. I'm taking his word for granted since I haven't played Stalker or Project Silverfish, but if it's true that it has less content than Stalker, something that it seems to be its inspiration, then why the fuck does it cost $30? This is a problem, especially smaller, shorter indie games have. I'm not saying their work isn't worth anything, but be realistic. I'm gonna get into some examples of indie games that actually piss me off later in the video. Still, he doesn't really elaborate on why it's a bad video game. Sure, the price might be inflated, but that doesn't mean the content is bad. In fact, just like the last game, he inserts his subjective beliefs about the game like, this game is not fun. This game is hideous, and uses them as arguments against them. He might not be wrong, maybe Fortune's Run is actually a boring game, but he never elaborates on it. So it comes out as just a guy that didn't like something and instantly thought it was hot garbage no human could enjoy.
Mouthwashing. It's like David Lynch made something really boring. Basically, no gameplay. Overwhelmingly positive.
This was where I thought this guy was just rage baiting. And if this whole video is rage bait, I must say it worked flawlessly. I have this theory that this guy has the shortest attention span in the world. Cause what do you mean boring? You're right, it's got no gameplay, it's pretty much a walking sim. But the story, characters and events makes it far from boring and a damn good game. Same problem as the last two examples. He doesn't like something, therefore it must be bad.
Friends vs. Friends. Poorly balanced. Fun for about 3 hours. Waste of money. Also furries. Very positive.
Yet another game I had no idea of its existence. Now this is the first time he actually gives good criticism of why the game is bad. It's poorly balanced, but then refuses to elaborate.
No, I'm Not Human. A glorified Flash game for $14. Remember when these sorts of games were free on addicting games? Overwhelmingly positive.
Credible criticism. Very insightful.
Dispatch. Barely even a game. $30. Overwhelmingly positive.
This guy has to be trolling, there's no way. He literally said nothing.
Still, whenever I cave and pick up an indie game a friend recommended to me, I am almost always disappointed. For every Terraria or Kenshi or Cruelty Squad game there's 100 terrible wastes of money with passable Steam reviews.
This just reinforces my theory of this guy having a short attention span. That's why he thinks games like Mouthwashing or Dispatch are bad. My guy cannot sit down for more than 2 minutes to enjoy a story unless it's fast-paced and filled with hype and aura moments. He's a bit based, though, I must admit, for mentioning Terraria. He actually brings up a really good criticism. The oversaturation of indie games. Not that I'm mad people are pursuing their dreams of making games, but with that many to choose from, it's only logical that most are gonna be absolute dog shit. However, the examples he showed previously are the exception.
Most people, myself included, do not have the patience or the willpower to waste time and money on a game that is most likely going to be shit, or will be entertaining for about 2 hours in exchange for $20. I'd rather go see a movie, and I don't even like movies, That way, at least I'd have something to talk about.
Who the heck is most people? You're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. You could argue he's talking about his YouTube audience, since the majority in the comments section seem to agree with him, but they're just a small representation of all gamers. Also, and I'm gonna ad hominem his ass again, him not liking movies further proves my theory of him not being able to sit down for a minute to enjoy a story.
The reason I'm more interested in talking about double and AAA trends is that there is an expectation of quality in those sorts of games. Not so with indie games, where failure is the rule and not the exception. It's way more interesting to talk about a AAA game that failed because that's somewhat surprising. Less so these days, though. I mean, look at Highguard. That's shocking, that a game with that budget failed so quickly.
This video has to be rage bait, I swear to God. How can you say that with a straight face? Highguard's failure could be seen a mile away. Ever since it got announced in the Game Awards, that game was doomed. Its failure was written in the fucking walls. How can you be this blind? Concord's failure was also a surprise. I mean, that cost $400 million. How could it fail with such a big budget? I mean, come on.
The fact that the furry slop dog shit with no polish was only made by two dudes who were freezing to death in Siberia over the course of 20 years does not in any way make the experience of playing it more fun.
First of all, I love that and I'll be putting it on my wall. Second of all, yet again, our friend Peeb here uses subjective things such as having fun to try to diss indie games. If you didn't find any enjoyment out of a game, it doesn't automatically make it a bad game. You have to look at objective things to be able to give a valid criticism to something. For example, Fear and Hunger. In my honest opinion, the combat in this game is fucking horrible, it's cancer. You'd have more fun flaying yourself alive with an oxidized razor than playing this game. Does this mean Fear and Hunger is a bad game? Of course not. There's people that like that type of combat. Besides, the story and characters are very interesting and the setting is fucking awesome. I've yet to see Peeb give criticism that doesn't involve his feelings.
It's funny to me that people who are die-hard into indie games laugh at the AAA scene for its emphasis on graphical fidelity. They're right to do that, of course, but they will do the exact same thing with indie games, only in the opposite direction. The better an indie game can replicate an archaic aesthetic, or look like this, it is subject to the same undue praise as any AAA game is for having fully rendered water molecules, mechanics be damned.
Hold on, Peeb is actually cooking here. I understand why someone would like to make their game look like fucking sandpaper, because I fuck with that aesthetic as well. But why the heck is it everywhere? It's always the low poly VHS aesthetic. Some games pull that look really well, but the vast majority don't. And I think this is also part of why someone like Peeb would be sick and tired of indies. Not only because there's so many annoying cons that just won't shut up about them, but also because of this obsession for making your game look like it's from the PS2, making so many indie games look the same. Even I get tired at times of seeing the same look over and over and over again. Some games go for a bad graphic aesthetic as a creative decision rather than them chasing trends, and it's rather easy to spot who's who.
The indie label doesn't really make any sense in itself anymore. How do you define what a big publisher is? Expedition 33 came in and swept all the indie awards despite being a studio of all former AAA developers, which probably sucks if you are the aforementioned two dudes in Siberia.
Damn, Peeb, you're actually onto something here. Technically speaking, the studio that made Expedition 33 is indie. However, it's true that they had an undeniable advantage over other indie studios. Now, I'm glad you didn't mention the graphics because that doesn't define what an indie is or isn't. More so now that anyone has access to incredibly advanced and powerful game engines.
You can't trust the reviews because people will instantaneously give positive reviews to a game that they watch somebody else play. There is an entire shadow economy of lonely people that use the internet as a replacement for social interaction. And they remember the validation and parasocial friendship they felt watching someone else play a game as being enjoyment of the game itself.
Source, trust me, bro. Where are you getting all of this from? I don't understand how you came to that conclusion. They're just assumptions you're making about people. They are founded on nothing. Also, you can enjoy a game without playing it. You don't have to be playing the game to form your own opinion or enjoy it. You don't need to be the one playing to notice things that were done right and things that weren't in the game.
There is so much gimmicky streamer bait that is designed around being clickbaity or eye-catching enough to get influencers to play it for 1 or 2 sessions, get their audience to buy it, and then forget about it.
This guy has like 3 bad takes and then a really good one. Yes, there's so many. Fears to Fathom is an indie game that I absolutely despise. It's divided into episodes, the only free one being the first. The premise is very simple. People send horror stories that happen to them to the game dev, and they make a game out of those stories. The problem is that nothing ever happens. For 2.5 hours, you're gonna be doing absolutely nothing while nothing important happens, only to be chased by the evil bad guy of that episode for the last 5 minutes. Every single fucking episode is structured this way. You just have to go to Markiplier's channel to see the amount of, let's call it, indie VHS SLOP that there's out there. And every single fucking one of them is the same. Do nothing for the majority of the game, just to have a final chase sequence with a bowling ball man.
What? What does that mean?
What the fuck is this game, man?
And this is no dunking on Iron Lung here either, but the fact that a YouTuber can then go make a movie about a 45-minute long horror game and have it outsell Hollywood, the quality of the movie, regardless, right? Just shows you the amount of influence these people exert over the popularity of these games and the public perception of them. That's how people are finding indie games, is through these YouTubers.
It's true that YouTubers have an immense amount of influence over which indie games become the next big thing. However, if the game is not good, it will quickly lose popularity regardless of if Queso streamed it. Using Iron Lung as an example is so stupid because it's a pretty good game. It blew up because of the YouTubers that played it, yes, but it stayed because of how intriguing the lore was, as well as how tense and good the ambience was. Yes, it lacks gameplay, you're just clicking 3 buttons, but people were not there because of the gameplay.
I don't remember how to do this.
Also, you say that most people find indie games through YouTubers as if that was a bad thing. Again, if the game is not good, nobody will give a fuck. For example, Fears to Fathom. Again, the last episode, Woodbury Gateway, it's owned by 100,000 to 200,000 people, at least according to Steam Spy. I think that's what that means. If not, then I'm completely wrong in this argument I'm doing. Markiplier's video has 4 million views. That means that for every 20 views there was 1 download. Now take in mind that Markiplier wasn't the only big name that was playing this game, meaning that the amount of viewers per download is much bigger than 20. If what you're saying about people blindly playing and giving good reviews to indie games their favorite YouTubers played, the numbers of downloads should be similar to the views of the video.
Really, it reminds me of the nerdier aspects of jazz. Certain jazz fans will say, that bass is really creamy, and it is by far the worst excuse for music you've ever heard in your entire life. That's how I feel when someone tells me about how much I will love the hottest new indie rape simulator made in RPG Maker. That's real.
I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point. Peeb keeps using his subjective points of view of something to justify why it's bad without really giving a good objective argument. You don't have to like jazz, but that doesn't mean it's bad or that bass isn't creamy. They're probably saying that because they know more about music and jazz than you do. Also, you gotta love the gross oversimplification of Fear and Hunger. The game having grotesque and uncomfortable scenes doesn't make it a bad game. That's like saying Berserk is the hottest new rape manga and because of that it sucks balls.
Oh, my beautiful baby.
Most story-driven indie games basically go, everything good is bad, everything bad is good, and then you get kicked back to the main menu and they spit on you for spending money. The ever-present trend of fucked up miserable people writing fucked up miserable stories persists. If you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't like having your soul tormented, you just don't enjoy games then.
I don't know if you've noticed, but Peeb loves generalizing in this video. Most people, most indie games, and I don't know what's wrong with fucked up stories. The story can be disturbing and still be good. I don't see what your argument is. There's plenty of examples. Resident Evil, I'd say its themes are pretty fucked up. Oh, and I wouldn't say the people behind it are fucked up miserable people. Silent Hill is also pretty disturbing. Dead Space, Fear, Alice Madness Returns, The Evil Within, Cory in the House. And we also have indies to choose from in case you thought I was avoiding them on purpose. Darkwood, Soma, Slay the Princess, Dusk, the original Postal, Faith, Amori, and the list for both AAA and indie goes on and on. And I understand if you don't find certain themes or certain games attractive. Even I can't stomach some of them. But that doesn't mean they're bad. If you don't want to play something because you find a subject triggering, then don't do it. That doesn't mean that you don't like games or stories, but you can't go around telling people it's trash just because you didn't find it appealing.
A lot of these indie games have a fixation with the whole emotionally scarring equals deep thing. I really do not know what the rape child subplot in mouthwashing ads, aside from getting people to talk about how fucked up it is. It's lazy writing if you're not 14 years old, but you will still be browbeaten over how you just don't get it.
How can you be so media illiterate? How can you be so blind? Oh, I know! You want everything regarding a story given to you on a silver platter. If you had actually paid attention to the story of mouthwashing, you would know that Jimmy, raping Anya, is one of the main catalysts to the demise of the entire crew. Jimmy crashes the ship on purpose so he doesn't have to take responsibility for his actions. He doesn't have anything back on Earth. He's not gonna have his job, and he's gonna go to prison. And just in case I lost you there, by Jimmy's actions, I meant raping Anya.
Indie is an increasingly large niche because of Steam and social media, yes, but it isn't replacing the great games we grew up with by any stretch.
Who is saying indie is trying to replace them? Being inspired by something doesn't translate to wanting to replace them. Take for example the game you mentioned at the start. How are they trying to replace anything? Anyways, there's a minute and 20 seconds left on the video and I just can't be bothered. I'll be leaving a link to the video in the descriptions if y'all want to check it out by yourselves. If by any chance this blows up, I feel like I have to say this, but don't go and harass Peeb. There's only one thing worse than the takes in that video, and that's harassment. I do not condone it. With that being said, rage bait or low IQ, you pick, ladies and gents.